Hi, it's Mayor Walter Sendzik, and this is the next episode of Our Home with Mayor Sendzik. Thank you for tuning in. And now we're heading into February. This is the shortest month, but it also is a month of romance. It's a month where we get to have Family Day. We get to experience all the joys of winter here in St. Catharines and across Niagara, as well as there's a special event coming up near the end of February, which is the Celebrity Ice Cup, which is an opportunity for those of us like me who can't really play hockey, who get to play hockey with former NHL stars. And while I don't do well, we raise a lot of funds for the Hotel du Shaver. So February is a packed month for a lot of things that are going on in our community. But today I want to touch on two aspects of the city building side of St. Catharines. We have the building of buildings, so the built form, as well as we have Catherine Habermebl, who will be coming on. She is the Acting Commissioner of Public Works. After the break, she'll be talking about waste management, and that's another hot topic, let's say, in our community. But joining us on our show is a new face to our community, and her name is Tami Kitay, and she is the city's new Director of Planning and Building Services. And she had just started the job. She's been on the job for about 2 months now, and she has 18 years of experience in progressive land use in the public sector. She comes from Burlington, the city of Burlington. That's where her last position was. She's also worked in Barrie, the town of Bradford, West Gwillimbury, and Hamilton. She holds a master's in public administration from Western and honors bachelor in environmental studies and urban planning from University of Waterloo. Welcome to the show, Tami.
Thank you for having me.
And so, Tami, you are coming down the QEW from Burlington, and I got to tell you, I'm really impressed with what Burlington has done over the last number of years. It has really been one of those cities that has understood the importance of urban density, of building up where density makes sense, as well as making sure that in the building of its structures, that it's creating the right flow for what would be the residents. So you have a breadth of experience in that, in what I would call sort of the new city building. What brought you to St. Catharines? What was the interest in, I want to apply for that job?
The city of St. Catharines is a city that honors its past and its heritage while at the same point looking forward to the future. One of the first things that I did was I looked to the city's vision in terms of its strategic plan and the four pillars being economic, environmental, social, and cultural sustainability. And I realized that there was an alignment there with my core values. At the same time, we were hearing messages from the elected council of wanting to grow bold. And that's something that we have heard from other municipalities in the past, but you want to know what's actually the motivation behind that and how much commitment there is to that as well. So when I look to the city's official plan, which is a relatively new document, it sets forward a vision for the community, a 25-year vision that was crafted with the help of the community, but it sets an expectation to the development industry as well, is that this is a communal vision that we have worked on together, and this is how we want to move forward as a community. So those types of things speak to a development planner
Right.
like myself. So you did touch upon my experience for a bit, but I have worked in the public sector, in the private sector, small municipalities, mid-sized cities, as well as the province. And I think that gives an advantage in terms of exploring city building through a variety of different perspectives.
And I want to touch a bit more on that, because building in the city of any city, whether it's Burlington, Hamilton, St. Catharines, it's not a one-stop experience. The origin of a concept to completion, it takes time.
Absolutely.
So if we look at the GM site on Ontario Street, 53 acres, former industrial, over 100 years of industrial use. Now it's available. There's the opportunity to have a brand new canvas of development. What is from your experience, what is the expectation from an idea, a developer coming in and saying, this is what we'd like to do, to what you would see as a completed built-out form?
A site like the GM site offers incredible opportunity and transformative change for that neighborhood. It's something that you want to explore from a larger lens right down to the details. And sometimes that's a misconception from people who aren't in the industry, is how development moves through the process. And there are different methods of moving between the process depending on the size and the context of a site. With something like GM, because of its value and opportunity, there really needs to be a larger conceptual exercise at play here. It's something that would benefit from a larger, I will say, block planning or secondary plan or area-specific planning exercise where we work with the community, we work with the landowner, we work with the region and the city in achieving our goals and our variety of perspectives in a comprehensive and collaborative manner.
So how long would something like that take?
It could take just alone
Just a
in
secondary
terms of the
plan.
conceptual planning, and secondary planning could take a year to 2 years alone because you want to get it right.
Right.
When we build new buildings in new communities, they last for hundreds of years. As we know, when we look back to our previous heritage in the community, we want to get it right moving forward. It's not a property that warrants just single-family houses from corner to corner to corner. It's an opportunity to provide new modes of active transportation, new park spaces, new community and educational facilities, as well as a variety of housing and, of course, some of the commercial supports to that. That being said, it's also identified as employment land. So there's a real mixed use opportunity for those lands, and we want to make sure that we get them right while being compatible and respectful with the fringe context around those lands.
So council has put aside funds for a secondary plan
Okay.
on that site. And in terms of once that process is complete, then what happens? Then the developer, so give us a sense of what happens next after a secondary plan.
Okay. So a secondary plan, like I said, can take 1 to 2 years to complete. We would always approach it from the understanding we want to be collaborative and supportive and all get together as a harmonious decision point that we're delivering to council. That may not always be the case. There could be an appeal to that document, which of course would add extra time in dealing with the final decision. But once we had a final secondary plan, what it does is it gives the landowner or the developer that certainty to know what they can plan around in terms of a business planning and investment perspective. It gives a community an appreciation of not just the process, but an understanding of how they fit in within their community and designing it and the expectations about what they're going to see moving forward. Then there comes in a whole host of other hierarchy in terms of planning process. So if we set a secondary plan in motion, then we need to look at implementing policies such as zoning bylaw amendments, site plan amendments, subdivisions. There will be conveyances for public roads, perhaps park space. There will be opportunities there for perhaps condominium tenure, rental tenure. We can make arrangements and work with Niagara Region on perhaps some affordable housing or assisted and supportive housing opportunities. So working out those details take a long time, but I see the investment in the process as a way of giving certainty to the end of the outcome and ultimately an expedited process towards the end.
I'm looking forward to seeing that community input on that site, and then really starting to see some activity take place around how do we build out 53 acres of real estate in the heart of our community that's been a part of our community for over 100 years. And it's really, that's an exciting part of planning. Now, I want to pivot to GO, and recent announcement having GO daily commuter service into St. Catharines. Burlington had that for a long time. What do you think the impact of GO is going to have on the planning side of our city?
I think the provincial decision to move up GO service to the city of St. Catharines 4 years ahead of time is really a signal of confidence in the community and its growth potential. I think there are some perhaps naysayers now that say, well, it's just one train in the morning to Toronto and one train in the evening, and that much is true for now. But the opportunity that's going to open up once we have two-way service and two-way all-day service is something that's not being fully realized or discussed now in the community. we have a situation where people are being priced out of the GTA and now even so much Hamilton, and they're looking towards Niagara as an affordable option. So what that does is it opens up a whole way of access to the greater Golden Horseshoe. So now we're looking at people who might be moving to St. Catharines and would now be able to take a GO train to work in Hamilton or Peel Region or Halton Region, or people who have perhaps are moving to the community, moving to the GTA, and have an employer in St. Catharines that they can now access by two-way GO. It's also an opportunity for people on weekends who don't want to sit in the QEW for a couple of hours to come and enjoy all that Niagara has to offer. They can now get on a train with their family and skirt by all the parked cars on the QEW. So it's these types of opportunities that will support homeowners, they will support businesses, they will support our tourism, and I think it's a tremendous opportunity for us. Also, to respond to that, the city's planning department has also conducted a secondary plan around the GO station that speaks to an intensity of different uses, both employment and residential, to treat it as a destination hub. And of course, Niagara Region is a partner in that experience as well. Our next project in that line will be implementing the zoning along the secondary plan lands so that when landowners come to invest in the secondary plan area around the GO train, they can skirt by longer processes and head straight towards site plan.
And I think one of the greatest assets, in addition to your breadth of experience that you bring to St. Catharines, is what we want to do is make sure that we learn from other communities that have gone through the GO expansion. And we want to make sure our community is a community that's affordable for everyone who wants to choose to live in St. Catharines. And that's some of the issues that have been seen in Oakville and Burlington, where it becomes an unaffordable community because the built form didn't take into account the rental side of it, the affordable housing complexity that can be built into a community when it anticipates that there's going to be a growth. So we have an opportunity to learn, and you bring that experience down the QEW from Burlington. One of the interesting things that I think the public should know is that you also are active on social media. You do have a Twitter feed. What's your Twitter handle?
At Tami Kitay.
At Tami Kitay. And what I've noticed is you've been exploring St. Catharines and checking out some things like Beechwood Donuts. What are your top 3 finds that you've discovered?
I would have to first start with Billette Restaurant. Chef McLeod is actually an award-winning chef, and he does magic with seafood. The second, I would say, is Helen's Deli. That's my go-to during the day. Quick hot meals, European. It's a fantastic find. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't point out the boot shop.
Oh, nice. Look at this. All into the downtown. So clearly you're out and about in our community, and I think that's something that the public is going to see as your activity in St. Catharines. I think we're fortunate to have you on the team, Team STC. We are all about team at the City of St. Catharines. We have, I believe, one of the best management teams, not just here in Niagara, but across Ontario. We're led by our CAO, Shelley Kemnitz, and she has assembled quite a management team that's helping to really capture our vision of being one of those amazing cities in North America. So Tami, welcome to the team. We look forward to seeing all of your input on how we grow as a city. It's going to be an exciting next 4 years for me at least, and you beyond. So thank you for being on our show, and stay tuned because we're going to talk about waste management right after the break. Hi, and welcome back to Our Home with Mayor Sendzik. We were talking about planning with Tami Kitay, the new Director of Planning for the City of St. Catharines. And that's all about the built form of our community. And now on this part of the show, we have Catherine Habermebl, and she is the Director of Waste Management for the Niagara Region. And we're going to be talking about waste management and some of the proposed changes that are going to be coming forward in front of Regional Council. And it's not just the proposed changes, but why they're important to our community, not just today, but if we think 7 generations ahead, how the decisions that we make today are going to have a lasting impact for our great-grandchildren and beyond. Catherine has been with the region for 18 years, and she is a graduate of Brock University. I love to see that when you have graduates of our university here in St. Catharines or our college at Niagara College, and they're employed at different businesses. It's great to see a Brock University graduate. She's also been involved in developing an innovative glass recycling system, allowing Niagara to be the only recycling center in Ontario that produces an end product, which again, shows how the innovation around recycling can generate additional products. Her passion and enthusiasm and dedication to responsible waste management practices and providing exemplary customer service to all stakeholders are the driving force behind the region's pursuit of a diversion goal. So we're going to get more into what diversion means, but a diversion goal of 65%. So, Catherine, let's dive right in, because there's been a lot of folks who have raised concerns about waste management in St. Catharines, Niagara. There's been issues on the pickup of waste management over the last year or so. There's been discussions about, you have recyclable waste that's been blowing down the road. You have papers that get blown during heavy wind storms, and it just causes a lot of aggravation for folks. So first and foremost, is your job an easy job?
It can be.
It can be.
It has, as you mentioned, it has been a bit of a challenge the last year with the service that has been provided, but we're working on solutions. Regional Council gave us the authority to negotiate with the service provider.
Right.
We've made some changes. We have seen improvements, obviously, from the last December, January, so we're hopeful we can move forward. We're working in the right direction. So those delays that were experienced a year ago, we're starting to see that those delayed times decline.
So one of the, on Facebook, a resident reached out and said he's tired of going down the road and picking up plastics and the papers that have blown down the road during, we do have wind events in our community. Other communities in Alberta and some other ones have come up with put lids on top of this. What can people do to try and tamp down on recycling that has decided to move its way down the road through windstorms or wind events?
Yeah, it seems like we're having more and more wind events, and they always seem to be on the morning of collection.
Yeah.
So it is a challenge for us. We've been hearing this this comment back to us. I've been going to all 12 area municipalities talking about the new changes, which I think we'll talk about a little later in the show. So what I can say is currently we do allow clear bags for recycling, although that presents a bit of a challenge at the recycling center because now we're having to manually open those bags, empty them, and then dispose of the bags. So we do allow bags, but they are a challenge. We are looking at lids for the blue boxes. In the past, that's been a challenge because they haven't been available through a retail location. The lids are specific to the box that you buy. So at the region, we tender out the procurement of boxes. So it's always not the same vendor. So that's been a challenge. We haven't found a bin that's universal. But we are meeting with a company locally who has a lid that may be a little more flexible in terms of fitting on a couple boxes. So we are looking at that. We know it's an issue for residents. Residents have asked us, why are we not moving to a cart-based program like Toronto? And we did look at that, but given that the province is looking at some pending changes to the Blue Box program where the municipalities may not be involved in the collection and processing, we didn't think at this time it was the right decision to invest that kind of capital into the program.
Okay, so when we come back from a brief break, we're going to talk about something about the every 2 weeks, and that's another area of concern. So on the return from the break, we'll be learning more about the every 2 weeks. So we'll be right back. And we're back to talk about waste management. And one of the hot topics that we've been talking about both in the city of St. Catharines and at the region is the concept of picking up garbage every 2 weeks, but organics every week and recycling every week. So first of all, why are we even talking about it?
So so first of all, I just want to point out no decision has been made on the service levels.
Right.
Our current contract goes till 2021. But in order to prepare and tender out the next contract, we need to start planning now. So we came up with some options that we wanted to look at. Number one, that reduces cost, cost avoidance, diverts material from landfill, provides a similar service across different sectors, because right now we have different garbage limits for different sectors. So we took those options and we went out and consulted. We did a broad-based stakeholder consultation process. We reached out to the public. We reached out to targeted groups, downtown business associations, businesses, chambers of commerce. We just completed that consultation in December. We brought a report through to Public Works Committee at the region last week, outlining the results and making a recommendation to only include these changes into the next RFP. So no decision will be made until the latter part of this year.
Latter part of this year. The interesting thing about this, Catherine, is the reason why we're doing this, putting it into the RFP process, so that we can get an apples to apples evaluation on if there's a cost reduction, but at the same time, it's increasing our diversion. How long have we been doing recycling for?
In Niagara, it's been, when did we first start? Pelham was the first municipality to roll it out, so it was mid-'80s.
So I can remember when recycling came in, and I can remember sitting around the dinner table. I was a teenager, and the complaints from my own family about, oh, this is going to take us so much time, and this is not going to work, and why are we doing this? It was about diverting items from our garbage, our waste, our landfills that can be repurposed into other products so that it's a recyclable good. So that came about. It took some time, but people got used to it. Tell us about the Waterloo experience, because Waterloo had moved to every other week on garbage, organics every week, and recycling every week. What has been the increase in diversion?
So Waterloo is the latest region to move to every other week. They implemented it in 2017. There's other regions, Halton, Toronto, Ottawa, Barrie, a number of larger urban areas are moving to this. In Waterloo, we know that their organics program tonnages increased by 200%.
So 200% diversion.
Diversion. So that tonnage prior to the change was going into our landfill, into their landfill. After the change, they saw that significant increase in organics material now going to a compost facility where it's turned into a usable end product.
Right. We call that, I think they call that black gold.
That's right.
Because
it's
it
a
now
soil
becomes a
compostable
material you add to soil, and it's actually rich in nutrients.
And it has value. Value for the environment, but also economic value, because you sell that material now. And also what they saw was almost $1.5 million annually in savings when they went to every other week garbage collection.
Right.
So there's the environmental and the economical benefit.
So when someone says, like me, that we're thinking 7 generations out, why do we have to think about the future when it comes to diversion? What are some of the oncoming challenges that will be here quickly in terms of if you look at it from a longer time horizon?
Well, I think the one thing I want to say initially is that you can't change, you can't undo what you've done. So when you're putting this material in the landfill, it has an environmental impact. So when we're landfilling organics and at our landfill, there's a cost to that. We have to manage the leachate that's produced, so that's what I call garbage juice, and also it creates methane gas, which is a greenhouse gas which contributes to our climate change.
Right.
We spend close to $1 million annually managing that. So there's a cost, and there's also a cost when you use up your landfill.
Right.
When there's
you can't just blow another hole in the ground.
When there's no space left. So you're looking at perhaps another landfill or alternative technology.
Or like Toronto, you have to ship it down the
Or you have to ship it, which
401
has
to
another
somewhere,
environmental, huge carbon footprint to doing that. I can tell you, Durham Region, when they finally started up their incinerator, 2016, it was almost $300 million cost to construct that.
Just to build it.
Yeah. So there's, again, I want to stress, there's the environmental, the economical impact. And also, you touched on it, when you're taking material that has value and you're landfilling it, there's zero value to that. Right. But when you recycle it and compost it, there is a value at the end. But also when you look at recycling, you're not using virgin material to create a new product.
Right.
You're using less trees, less material. So
there's a bit of a horizon here, but what I want the public to understand is that when you look at something like diversion, you're not doing it for today. You're doing it for 30, 40, 50 years out. You're doing it for 100 years out. So there is a discussion taking place about whether or not we move in this direction. What I want the residents watching today to do, just do a bit of a test pilot. Look at your own garbage management system in your house. Look at your recycling, look at your organics, and see if you can move towards, on your own, organics every week, recycling every week, and then the garbage that you create, should start to materialize and shrink down. Take that and do it every 2 weeks and see how much of a challenge it is. If cities like Waterloo and Barrie and Toronto and Ottawa can move towards every other week, there's no reason why we can't be considering it. So I realize that there's been a lot of discussion about this, Catherine, and you have been a leader on this. You are an environmental leader in our community. And I think as we move down this road towards a decision, let's have those honest discussions. Are we doing it because selfishly today we just don't want to separate our garbage, or are we actually taking into consideration future generations and the impact on the landscape moving forward? So you are in a hot spot, you're in a hot seat, and I want you to know that as we move through this process, the City of St. Catharines will continue to have these discussions, and we're looking forward to seeing how we can further our diversion rates. And as you've talked about, Catherine, it's an important part of making sure that our environment, from an economical standpoint and from a future sustainability standpoint. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
For those at home, hopefully you take up the challenge. Let's work towards a 65% diversion rate. Let's do it as a community. Let's do it with a view towards the future, towards our children and grandchildren. Let's leave this place in a better place than we found it today. So until the next time on Our Home with Mayor Sendzik, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful February leading into March, and hope March comes in like a lion and leaves like a lamb so we can look forward to spring. Till then, take care.